Ready, buddy?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that everyone is doing well today. My name is Ryan. My guest is Tubs. We are here in the Keith and Gesia podcast studio. Maybe I should start that again. Huh?
Yeah, you promised it.
Now the pressure's on. Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? Now you see it. It's tough when you start. Ladies and gentlemen, what is up? I hope that you guys are doing well today. My name is Ryan. My guest today is Tubs. We're coming to you live from the sunny East London at the Keith and Gesia podcast studio. This is All Things Awesome. Awesome. All right, so that's the intro there. So you see what you see what I mean when I say that I've got to practice. You got to warm up to it.
Sure, no problem.
Because it just yeah, you know what I mean. So yeah, Tubs, welcome again. Good to see you.
How's it, Ryan? Good,
Yeah,
man.
looking good. I think you shaved since I saw you last.
First time in about 12 years.
That's what I saw this morning when I was like, no.
Yeah, I know my daughter kind of just begged me to do it. Daddy, please, I've never seen you without a beard.
But also, how much was it? Because maybe you're going grey.
No. I'm proud to be grey. Salt and pepper look.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no, I've never dyed my hair black.
No. Thank you once again for taking time to come and have a chat. I know that last time we did the mobile podcast, which is actually quite a success.
Yeah.
It was really, really awesome and empowering to hear your story, but I know that was more of your story and your journey. And one thing that really drew me to you in the beginning was your story of redemption from substance abuse. And then when I opened that can of worms with you in the car, I was like, oh, is this guy still alive?
Yeah.
You know, and I want to get the dialogue going, and I want to talk through the journey, and I want to, explore the different scenarios and thought processes that went through your mind, because in today's time, it is more real now than it's ever been with what's going on here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, definitely. I think the Lord has definitely spared my life. There was definitely a reason why I'm still here. And hopefully this is the reason, to save lives, to encourage other suffering addicts and people that are battling with addiction, that there is hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you, and just on that word itself, how do you find the word addict?
Well, addict is a very broad spectrum word, and it can apply to a whole lot of things, When I was in rehab, there was addiction for all sorts of things, not only drugs and alcohol. I think anything that controls your life beyond your point of control is an addiction.
Yeah. But if you're saying that the word addict, that term, that you're an addict, how does that really make you feel when someone refers to you as an ex-addict or you're an addict?
Well, we're always an addict. The one part of recovery says, when we go to our AA meetings or NA meetings, we say, hi, my name's Tubs and I'm an addict. We basically get the stigma for life that we are addicts. It's to remind us that we are always recovering, that we're never quite there yet, that we have to take each day one step at a time. And instead of thinking, well, you healed and you've got no more problems and, everything's going to be fine from this point onwards, because it's not. It's a daily commitment. It's a daily struggle. It's you got to do it every day. You can't just say, okay, I'm cured.
Yeah, man, well done. And you just told me now before it's 4.5 years.
Yes.
And it's still, is it still tough?
I think about it so much less than I ever have before, The only times that I would actually think about drugs is when I'm driving and I drive past a place where I used to take it, or whatever the case was, then I'll have that kind of little memory jolt. But other than that, my life is so busy with what I'm doing at the moment, my MPO work, my business, everything that, we kind of, my family, my daughter, my wife, everything is so busy in my life that I don't even have time to think of it.
Do you think that's also because you've put that in place, that you've occupied yourself? Because do you think it would be a lot worse if you didn't have so much, if you weren't so busy?
Yeah, an idle mind is the devil's playground. That's what they say.
Wow. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
And so, would you say you think about it every day? Does it cross your mind every day?
No, actually not. There's some days I go completely without even thinking about smoking or drinking or taking drugs or anything that I used to do before. It's like it's not even a part of my life anymore, you know. Only when I go to a meeting, for example, or somebody brings it up and I go, hey, wait, I actually used to take drugs, you know.
But it was at such a. I mean, you didn't just take drugs. I mean, it was like being sober was it was intense.
Yeah.
It was started off. You were mentioning with marijuana, and then obviously, do you believe that marijuana is like that thing of saying it's a gateway drug?
You know, I think anything that inhibits your thought, your will, you know, to think clearly, can be a gateway. You know, not to say marijuana specifically is a gateway drug, but anything that takes you out of your solid state of thinking or your solid mindset can be a gateway because your decisions are inhibited.
So then you would say obviously alcohol.
Yeah, definitely alcohol. I would say alcohol number one, because once you're drunk, all your inhibitions, all your logical thinking, all of that just goes out the window. So you can find people can stop cocaine for 6 months. The minute they get drunk, they're on it again because they have to go get cocaine, sober them up, or take it, or whatever the case is. The first thing you do as a drug addict is when you get drunk, you phone your guy. You know, please bring me, I need some now.
Wow. And what about prescription pills?
Absolutely. There's no difference.
So what they say with like marijuana as a gateway, we're living in a world of a lot of gateways.
Yeah. You know, the thing is that when I was in rehab, so marijuana was my first love. So let me just explain that. I was on for 22 years. I used to smoke 30 joints on the way from driving from East London to Cape Town. And then before I got to Cape Town, I had to pull over the garage and roll a few more.
What is that because
immunity? Yeah.
But were you even high, like stoned?
I was permanently stoned for like, I never knew anything different.
And was it coming like sobering up? Was like that point where you said, "Hey, well, I'm sobering up. I got to get back into that state of mind." Or why would you be smoking so much?
So you know, at first you enjoy the high, you know, and then you kind of like you carry on smoking because you can just deal with life. You can deal with the pressures of life so much better when you're high. That was the thought process behind it, you know. I can't deal with this today. I just want to go smoke a joint. I'm stressed out. I just want to go have a joint. You know, you think that you can deal with life better when you don't have to deal with life. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. But does it also not at the same time become like a lifestyle? It's almost like I'm so used to it. It's like I almost find a reason to do it. Like, I dropped a coffee cup. Might as well go get high.
Well, it becomes, you know, with the marijuana especially is more like a culture, you know. People, their lives revolve around going home, grabbing their trays and, you know, banging their weed and rolling their joints or smoking their bongs. And it's like a bit of a cultural thing, you know. It's becomes a socially accepted thing now as well. So it's
like drinking,
you know. So people, like, they go home, they smoke. And they say, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, you know, I'm not harming anybody, I'm just coming here, I'm just having my joint, I'm being me, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, yes, you're not harming anybody else, and yes, marijuana is probably the very, very least of all the problems in the world when it comes to taking drugs. But what it does make you is inefficient. Okay? Because, let me explain, when I was in rehab, I said, fine, I'm going to give up all the hard drugs. But when I get out, because funny story was 2 months before I went to rehab, they legalized marijuana. and I was an activist. So I was fighting for the legalization of it. I was, you know, ready for this, you know.
And then you're like, I'm giving it up, and they're like, okay, well, now it's legal.
Yeah. So when I was in rehab, we all discussed it, and, you know, we said, okay, no, we're gonna give up everything, but when I come out, I'm gonna smoke weed because, you know, that's legal now, and no one's gonna stop me, and etc. But the funny thing is that when I got out of rehab, I realized that I didn't actually need to smoke weed anymore. That I had dealt with whatever I needed to deal with in rehab, and I learned how to live without substance. I was in long-term rehab. I was in there for 6 months. So in those 6 months, I was like, I got to a point where I was like, just going through my daily tasks and my daily routines and everything without any substance. And, found a bit of peace and harmony, within these, within that world of rehab. When you're in rehab, we refer to the outside and the inside. So it's like, I was like, we're on an island and we go like, the people on the outside, And, so when I actually came out and I had the opportunity to start smoking again, I was like, but I don't need to. The only thing it's going to do for me is make me high. It's not going to comfort me because I'm already comforted by what I've learned how to deal with my addiction.
And then also, how much of it was that you don't want to go down that path again?
Well, that was obviously a big thing. But I think for me personally, the more thing was the fact that I had an epiphany that I didn't actually need to have anything in my life that was mind altering, that gave me a different feeling to what I could naturally produce myself. Because you know what, it becomes your king. It becomes you got to make time for it. You got to go out and you got to buy it. You got to phone the guy. You got to come home. You got to prep it. You got to roll it. You got to smoke it. It takes hours. It's not a quick thing. There's a level of commitment that you must have to smoking it, or any drug for that matter. There's a level of time that you must take out of your day to organize money if you don't have the money, sell whatever you need to sell to buy it, go drive to wherever you need to drive to get it, or phone wherever you need to phone to organize it. It's not, not having this crutch in your life that you have to I've got to drive to the garage now and buy a box of cigarettes. Oh, I can't find the lighter. Where's the lighter? And you start panicking. You're freaking out because you can't find a lighter to light your joint. You're freaking out with everybody because you can't find, a lighter to smoke your bong. All the different drugs that you take. When things like that start to happen, when people start to freak out because they can't get their fix, or they can't get what they need to get to make them move from a level of sobriety to a level of if they feel that they can't relax without the substance, then you need to reevaluate your life.
Do you think people are scared of sobriety?
I think people can't handle life. I think life is just at the moment so hectic for everybody that people they don't know how to deal. And not everybody can afford to have treatment that I had. Not everybody can afford to see specialists or to get the proper help that they need. So a lot of people are lost, and a lot of people unfortunately just don't have the help that they actually need. So what do? They turn to the easiest way out, is just to numb the pain, numb the mind, just to
suppress everything, suppress reality,
to choose to not live in this world, because truly this world is it's crazy.
No, sure. And people so I was always wondering, why would you put yourself through that because damaging, yes, it's amazing, but now it becomes a real life-changing addiction that, it's from objectively you can look at it and say, well, the guy's destroying his life, but when you're in that moment, you don't see it. You don't see yourself destroying your life, I would presume.
Well, with any addiction, you even if you do see it, sometimes you just choose to live past it. You kind of feel like, well, if I don't do this, what am I living for? If I don't have this pleasure in my life, then what else must I do?
Do you think it's that they want to satisfy some sort of craving that they get with taking drugs, knowing that, yes, I'm craving and I know that I'm going to have a fix, so there's going to be that element of satisfaction? Sorry, I don't mean to go too deep into it, but I was always for me, when I've vaped, half the thing that, well, also not only the addiction, but when you start craving and that, and you're like, but yeah, if I'm having a really bad day, and that if I have a puff and every half an hour or so, I get that, okay, it's satisfying. No matter how tough the day is, there's a bit of relief, there's a bit of satisfaction, there's a bit of chemicals, good chemicals going through your brain.
Yeah, it's called instant gratification, So you're looking for instant things that are going to make you feel better momentarily, You're not really looking for, and sometimes these feelings are so suppressed that you don't even know why you're suppressing them. So I'm just saying, some people are smoking or doing drugs or whatever the case is, and they're not actually literally thinking about what their problems in their life are. They're just taking the drugs and enjoying them. But the drugs is allowing them to not actually have to deal with the reason why they're taking drugs in the first place.
And some of them don't even know what the reasons are.
No.
I mean, there are so many different reasons. I mean, it could be insecurities, it could be self-love, it could be relationship issues. But do you think that that's part of the healing process, is identifying
100%.
the underlying? Because I would presume that you don't become an addict for recreational just to say, you know what, I do this to enjoy it. There's obviously some element of something that's broken within someone, or something that needs healing, for a lack of a better word.
Well, yes and no. Because when people start taking drugs, especially as kids and teenagers, they don't go, oh, well, I've got these problems in my life, I'm going to start taking drugs. They just start taking drugs, And then all of a sudden, these subliminal problems that they have, or these back of the mind kind of problems, they have actually stopped stressing them out as much as they were, without them actually knowing that they're being suppressed by the drugs. So what rehab actually does for you is they start you from the beginning, and they make you write a life story. So when I went and read, they asked me, so what's wrong with you? I'm fine.
I should be out of here pretty quick.
Yeah, I'll be out of here in 2 weeks. I'm just coming for a little R&R,
Yeah.
And it's completely like, no, sorry, you're staying here for 6 months. And I'm like, hell, I'm not staying here for 6 months. I said, my agreement with my family is that I come here until I'm fine, and I'm going to be fine in 2 weeks. So, and I really, honestly, truly believe that I was going to be there for 2 weeks, honestly. I had no idea it was a long-term rehab. I was completely tricked into it.
And when you got there, you're like, damn,
yeah,
I'm stuck.
Yeah, I know. So I mean, I was ready to phone the cops.
Yeah, can I fit through that window?
Yeah,
can I fit through that window?
We were actually in the middle of nowhere. We were in the Kruger Park. Like you jump over the thing. There's lions and all that. Seriously, we were in an old place.
Oh man,
Yeah.
They make sure that you can't get out there.
No. Listen, it was like, you want to go.
Oh man.
But like so this is how the program starts. So you start with, for the first 4 weeks, you must write a life story about your life. So what you do, you start writing it, from the beginning. I was born here. This is what happened. This is what happened in my childhood. And as you start to write, you start to uncover these hidden, and it's done over time. You know what I mean? So you just add a bit more, and you do it as detailed as possible. And then from there, you go, well, this is actually quite hectic.
Yeah, because that's the one thing. Is surely when you start peeling that onion, you get to a point where you're writing and you're like, "Oh, this is heavy."
Yeah, this is some deep stuff.
Yeah, like you said, the suppression. Obviously, when you write it down, it's a way of bringing those out, and you're like, "Oh, there's a reason I stuck that down there."
Yeah, and you must know you're sobering up now, because now you're off drugs now, and probably the longest you've been sober for was 3 days, and now you 1 week in, 2 weeks in, and now more stuff is coming to the front. Then after you're done with your life story, my life story was close to 200 pages, and yeah, so then I had to read it to the entire men's barracks, or whatever you want to call it, and then there's a feedback form.
Wow.
With character defects. And they burn you. They literally tie you to the stake and burn you. So you read your life story to this group of addicts,
and then they turn it into a roast.
And then they turn it into a flippin' barbecue roast, and they let
and you got no way of dealing with.
And you're not allowed to comment. You got to sit on the chair and you got to let them roast you.
What was that like?
It's insane, because now where you telling the story as a victim, they turn it around and go, "Hey, pal, you are the most inconsiderate, self-centered,
Burning questions.
You look what you did to your mother. Look what you did to your brother. Look what you did to your family. You only thought about yourself here. You were selfish." And I mean, they said words that they were allowed to open range. Things that I wouldn't even say.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then your victim mentality goes to like I never actually saw it this way.
So they're like your rear view mirror on your life, and they've been like, did you see that? Did you see that? And
yeah, because one addict to another addict, So it's easy to see the faults in other people, but you can't see the faults in yourself.
And when you do see that, when all the eyes are on you and there's nowhere to run or there's nowhere to hide, there's no substance to numb the pain, when that's exposed to you for the first time, because there must have been that click moment for you when you what was that like?
So they actually allow you some downtime after that, so from working in the lands and from working in the ablutions and all that kind of stuff, after a grilling session like that, they actually allow you to go and just be.
Like debrief.
Just go debrief, just go lie down, just go take it easy. Because you don't have a joint to go smoke now, you don't have a line to go have, you don't have anything, you got to just deal, And that's where the whole dealing without substance actually starts really taking a big part. Then you got to come back after that, within a couple of weeks, and you got to start doing resentments. You got to start writing a list of people you resent for and why you resent them, and it's quite a detailed thing, and you don't realize how big that step of your life actually is when you got to start putting you resent your mom for doing this, you resent your dad for doing this, you resent your brothers for doing this, your sisters, whatever, you resent a friend for doing this to you, or whatever the case is, or for making you feel a certain way, and then you end up having this pile of resentments that you got to now read to a counselor, and admit these resentments to them, and you get feedback on that as well.
And you're like, oh, geez, not another roast. Yeah. Let me try and settle it down this time, eh?
No. Then it goes more into a therapeutic session, where the healing can start to take place.
Because it's busting pretty much that ego in the first one. It's beating you into submission to say, hey, listen, your little ego and what you thought is a sense of entitlement, you're not as entitled as you think.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's almost the first point in terms of identifying yourself. Because why do you find it that some people go into rehab but then they relapse like a week out?
Because they never really wanted recovery in the first place. They were forced into it, in my honest opinion. Or, some people, they just hit a brick road and they get cornered into a situation where they're like, the only option is to actually go for recovery, or they're going to get roasted. They get into trouble, family intervention, and they go like, this is like everybody coming down on me. I'm out of here, Plus, I don't have any money for more drugs, so, it seemed like a good idea at the time. And then,
yeah, because relapse is quite common, huh?
Yeah, very, very common. It's probably like 90% people relapse.
No, that's hectic. And then is it because you mentioned that keyword there now as well, that they don't want to go? And you find that a lot of them, they either go out of guilt because the family is breaking their family apart, or they've been forced into it, or there's no real, I want to.
Yeah, remember, most of the time when they go, they're high. They're not making a clear decision in the first place.
What was different for you? Because you obviously went in and you didn't did you want to?
No.
When you walked through the doors, were you high when you walked through the door?
Extremely. I was high when I got on the plane. I actually organized money from my brother to pay back the Nigerians who were going to kill me. But I organized double the amount so I could pay them back plus buy more.
Yeah.
So that I could get high for the last time for the weekend.
So you knew you were going in. You're like, I'm going on one more roller coaster.
Yeah.
Wow.
So look, at that point, my wife had been taken away from me. My daughter had been taken away from me. My mom had just died. My father had moved to America. My other brother was in Cape Town with my niece, and I was literally living on the street. And I had nowhere to go. I hadn't eaten for 4 or 5 days. The drugs had run out. The the Nigerians were trying to kill me. You know, well. I got hijacked in the car, which I sold the battery, and they couldn't start the car. And I think I told you in the last.
Yeah.
So that was a very close to death experience as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned with the knife as well.
Yeah, with the knife, stabbing against the ground, trying to get out of the whole situation. And then I just realized, like I've got at the time she was maybe 8 months old. Sorry, at the time she was about 14, 13 months old. And I'm like, I could have been gone now. I've got a daughter, I've got a wife, I've got a family to get back to.
Was there any sense of responsibility that you felt?
So, believe it or not, I thought I was a functional drug addict, and I didn't blame the drugs for getting me into the situation that I was in.
What do you mean by functional? I've always been fascinated when they say, I know you get a functioning alcoholic, but it's the functional drug addict. Is that like if you take cocaine and you can go out and operate?
Well, in my understanding, yeah, exactly. So, you get some drug addicts who take it and they're just lump in the corner,
Yeah.
And then you get some people who actually just work on the stuff, you know what I mean? And you have them, you see reps all the time and they're all high. No,
Yeah.
I'm not saying all reps are high. I'm saying
Next time the guy comes knocking high on this rep, you're like, whoa, this guy's buzzing.
No. What I meant to say is that, the reps or whoever the people in the working world that are high, they still go out and work and they function and they do deliveries and they run their businesses and stuff like that, and you don't really see it. It's very undercover.
That's hectic.
Yeah. So not everybody is as visible.
But everyone's got similar brokenness.
I would say there's very, very, very small percent of people that take drugs continuously without having this brokenness inside that needs proper healing.
Yeah. You were mentioning now there you thought you were a functioning alcoholic. Oh, God. Well, we should take a choice. Pick which one.
No. So, I thought I was a functional drug addict, and I didn't actually believe that the drugs is what caused me to be in the situation I was in. I thought it was external sources, It was the fact that, nobody believes me. Nobody thinks I can look after my daughter. Nobody thinks that I'm responsible enough, All of these things. I mean, it sounds like insanity. And it actually is, to think that you were capable of looking after your family, putting your daughter through school. I mean, if I've got to think of all the things that I do now, I couldn't imagine doing it then on drugs. There's just no ways.
In terms of a functional point of view?
In terms of a functional point of view, in terms of time management, I mean, I was taking literally the amount of hours that I would spend to go out, to buy the drugs, to take the drugs, to sit in the toilet and smoke the drugs, everything. I mean, without the drugs, I don't even have enough time in the day to get through what I need to get through.
That's hectic, because also at the same time, drugs, internal problems, and then obviously mental health. I think that's also quite a bad combination.
Yeah.
Because you get as you said, the people suppress things, but mental health is a major issue in today's time. And where does it stem from? Self-worth, self-esteem?
What do you mean? The mental health?
Yeah.
Where does mental health come from?
I know everyone's got mental health, but the element of why people are broken in terms of mental health, why anxiety, depression, and all complemented with drugs is obviously quite a bad situation, because you're depressed, you're going to take drugs. It's not going to make you feel better.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still an underlying issue. But as you said, the world is a really tough place, and how that combination. Did you ever get, as you were saying, or did you ever get to a point where you were a little bit depressed or anxious? Did you ever feel like you had some mental health issues that were being, what's the word for it now, with the drugs, that it was compounding it? The drugs were suppressing things that you knew.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you don't see it at the time. You only start to see it when you actually reach full sobriety. When I mean full sobriety is that they say that the neural pathways in your brain are like little road maps. And what happens when you take drugs is that these drugs they wash out these roads, these maps. And it takes about 6 months before those neural pathways start to redevelop and start forming new pathways to the brain for the function to start happening again. So there's a lot of misfiring that happens when you're on substances.
And then obviously, because when you're sober, and that I would presume the
Clarity.
Yeah.
So that clarity becomes obviously, and it's a magic feeling. It's really when you can start thinking clearly and you can start making proper decisions in your life, and you see how your life starts to change. There's very few addicts that become sober that don't actually become successful, in life after that, because they've gone through the hardship. They know what it's about. They're committed to their recovery, and most drug addicts are very, very smart. They're not stupid people that are taking drugs. I mean, they're very intelligent people that are taking it because they just can't handle the world the way it is.
Yeah, and also with the mental health side of it as well. Do you think by getting high in that, it would almost giving you that self perception that you are invincible, that you're untouchable, because that to a certain degree must also be like what's the word for it? But like a false facade. You believe that you the drugs make you feel like what's the right word for this now? Make you feel like something that you're actually not. That you're bigger than what you are. That you.
You're invincible. Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
Like when I.
Hey, you're getting my words right now today. Sorry, man.
When I used to take ecstasy, I just felt like nobody could touch me. I can get into a fight. I can take on 5 guys at the same time. It made me vuss. When I took cocaine, also the same story. But I felt indestructible. I felt untouchable. Cops can't touch you. No one can touch you.
And I can outrun a lion.
Yeah, you're doing drugs in your car outside the police station because no one's going to suspect you doing drugs outside the police station.
You honestly thought like, nah, what are the chances?
Yeah, well, no, we used to go park outside the police station and do lines there.
Yes. And then, which was out of the drugs that you taken, which one was the closest for you getting scared, like saying, "Whoa, that was close"? Did you ever have any moments like that where you realized maybe that's a bit too far, or was it just?
Look, crack rocks is a very, very dangerous drug. Number one, it's very expensive, and you can use it very, very quickly, and it's normally been the drug that cost people their house and their cars and everything, because you could go through thousands and thousands and thousands of rands a night, But one thing that that drug does to you is that it's a degrading drug, because I don't want to glorify the stuff, but there's something mentally that happens to you when you're taking this stuff, that you feel like you've dropped a piece somewhere on the floor. And you actually go on your stomach and your hands and you start putting the lights off and taking a torch and shining and looking for a small speck of the stuff.
What?
To pick it up and to put it back into your pipe and smoke it, you know what I mean? It becomes so, but you'll be on the floor for like 4 or 5 hours when the stuff's run out, and you're like scrounging around looking for this tiniest piece of it.
And was the high intense?
Momentarily.
Is it?
It doesn't last long.
Wait, do you remember the first time that you got like really high?
Yeah.
Was that Was that crack?
No, it was ecstasy. Where I was hallucinating and everything. So that was the first time that I really got
And it never really kind of freaked you out?
No, not. I mean, yes and no.
But yesterday, and then one of the things I just wanted to touch on though as well, we mentioned that a lot of it was self-awareness, self-love, not being able to deal with sort of your day-to-day realities. How do we start fixing that? How do we start building the rehab structures outside of rehab?
It's a good question. So I think, I always hear ads on the radio, where they go, come to this rehab, we're going to sort you out and, we can fix you up and everything. When I was listening to it the other day, I was thinking, an addict listening to this would never, this wouldn't even interest them. So it should actually be directed at the family. So, to say that if you have a loved one, and I'm not saying it didn't, but I'm just saying that it really is the family's, and the addict's hope is his family, or his support structure outside of himself, because in that moment, for an addict to seek help by themselves is a very, very rare thing. I mean, they only seek help eventually when, they've hit rock bottom and they've got nowhere out. But I'm just saying, on the way down, it's very rare that an addict will come in and say, I need help. It's only at the bottom that they say it. And by that time, it's normally too late. So it needs to start with your support structure, with your family, with family interventions, with family understanding what drugs is about, what addiction's about, how to help an addict, how to understand an addict, how to be there for an addict.
And that's the fundamental thing, is putting that structure in place, because I can imagine for a family to deal with it, it's not the easiest thing. It almost comes across as like it's met with anger, it's met with rejection, it's met with almost the recipes not to make things better. So the starting point is obviously have that element, creating that safe space.
Exactly.
And how does one create the safe space? I mean, number one, I would presume to be compassionate and to be patient. I'm sorry, I'm just, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I'm glad you've given me this platform to actually speak about this, because this is something that's been consistently in my mind. Is that when we were in school, we learned, don't take drugs, don't do this, don't do that. When we listen to things about rehab and everything, it's always speaking to the addict. We're always trying to educate the addict on how not to be an addict. And I promise you, the addict is in no space to comprehend or to accept any of these teachings. So these teachings are actually misdirected. These teachings actually need to be directed at the loved ones of those addicts, to teach them how to get your loved one out of addiction. Does that make sense?
No, 100%. I agree with you. And it's actually, it's a systematic problem.
You can't expect somebody who's not in the right state of mind to comprehend all of this, to be listening to this podcast is not directed to the addict that's listening to it. This podcast is directed to the mother of the addict, the father of the addict, the brother of the addict.
I agree.
Or the wife of the addict. It's not actually directed at the addict.
So what is something that is generally the worst thing to do, but is most commonly done? Meted with rejection.
Not always the worst thing, Sometimes hitting rock bottom could be the best thing for someone, to completely cut them off, to take away, to what's the word? To when you enable, to not enable them anymore, because some parents they will carry on giving their kid money for the drugs.
So what does enabling mean? Because people might be doing it, but not knowing that they're doing it.
So enabling is basically creating a means for someone to get drugs. If they cannot get the drugs without those means, because what will happen is some parents will go, you know what, I don't want him to steal. I don't want him to go out and get arrested. I'd rather give him $50 and let him go buy his thing, because when he gets back, he'll be much calmer and much more relaxed, and he won't be fighting and swearing and screaming at me. And, it's in controlled environment. He'll go to his room, he'll do his thing. When he comes out, he looks okay. He doesn't look like he has that much of a problem. There's all these different things. I know personally so many parents who actually just buy a little bit of drugs for their kids every day because they know that their kids can't survive without it. And they also obviously don't have the means to send them to a rehab or to get them professional treatment. And addicts become the sweetest talkers on the face of the earth. You know what I mean? So that's enabling. Enabling is if you get an allowance, if you have a car, if you have whatever that is say your parents, they can take it away from you. They can take those things away from you that will stunt the ability for you to get hold of drugs. But they don't, because it's very difficult, because when an addict wants something, they will go through thick and thin to get it. And it's not always an easy thing.
Yeah, and I think also for the family to deal with, because it's, can imagine it's an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
Because there must be some very good days, and then when you're thinking that there might be a bit of light, you have some bad days. And you were mentioning there as well, how often is it actually met with anger, which is not the right approach? It's, if anything, making things worse. I mean, if we had to look at this objectively, when it comes to light that one of the family members is an addict, I mean, it's one of the things where it's either met with rejection, anger, or disappointment, or a whole lot of other things. What would the best approach be with finding out that one of your loved ones, one of your family members is an addict? Would it be, okay, I've got to be compassionate, or it's not about me, it's not about how I feel, it's focusing on the family member?
You see, there's also a lot of blame shifting that happens with families and addicts, and parents especially, they feel like people are going to look down on them when they find out that their child's an addict. And a lot of the times the addict blames the parents or blames whoever for being in that situation. So there's a lot of guilt that's involved in that, So to answer your question, it's very difficult for somebody not to get angry with somebody who's in addiction because of the things we did in addiction. It's you got to be superhuman to be like, oh no, it's fine, don't worry, we'll get through this, we'll deal with this, we're there for you. People are human. People are gonna get cross. They're gonna get upset. So get cross, get upset, but then come down back to reality and say, okay, obviously this is not the way it's going to work. Let's work a route to solving this problem. Do 90% of the problem solving without the addict. Okay? Don't involve the addict in the problem solving. Go out, do your research, speak to a counselor, speak to a rehab center, to get all your ducks in a row, speak to people like me or whatever, get advice.
But then how would you, once you've got that system in place, how would you incorporate?
So there's family intervention, where also the counselors or so the counselors would also step in, and one day Eddie comes home and there's everybody sitting in the lounge and they go, right, sit down, we want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And you lay it all out. This is it. We know you have a problem. We know this is this. We're here to help you. We're here as a family. We're all together. You have a problem. You need help. We are going to stand by you. We're going to see you through this. You're not in trouble. We're not sending you away because we don't want you anymore. This is all being done out of love. We just want what's best for you. You might not see it now.
So it's like ultimately creating that comfort space, where there's no conflict, there's no anger, we all speaking on an even keel. There's no you lower than us, or we're not looking down on you. No. It's
like, how could you have done this to the family? You've disgraced our name and all that kind of stuff. Because that's just not going to be good for anybody.
And you think that's also half the reason why they say, well, go to rehab, but then they come out because they were forced into it. Like, oh well, my parents are angry with me, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
So but sometimes you'll get, a lot of the times you'll get somebody who's way out of control. Somebody who's breaking into houses, stealing cars, doing awful things, selling guns, whatever the case is, trying to make being a gangster, all that kind of stuff, and the family just, there's no sitting down and talking to this person, and then you have to probably just get a court section then to actually rope the person into a long-term rehab. So you get a family section. So there's 3 options. So here's the first option is family meeting, family intervention, sit down, get the person to go voluntarily. That's what I did. I went voluntarily, 6 months. Then you get a family section where the family said to the court, look, this person is a danger to themselves and society. We feel that there's no other option. There's no, he needs to go to rehab. Can we get a family court order section? So then, I think that's section 39. Then you get a section 41, correct me if I'm wrong, but section 41, which is a court section where if the person is doing illegal things in order to
Oh.
fuel their drug use, so they're stealing, they doing illegal activities, they are just completely off the road, they can get a court section where the court now places a section for them, and that's a compulsory 12 months into a treatment facility. So they don't go to jail or anything. They can go to jail if they're caught doing some things, but in that case where you get a court section is to say, look, there's no proof of the person actually doing this kind of thing, but this is what they are doing, and we need to get a court section to get them help.
It's very interesting, because you say you've actually hit a very good point, is to say it's actually educating, and it's must be directed at the family.
Yes.
I actually never really thought about it, and you're spot on when you say everything's focused at the addict. And I mean, he pretty much knows as well that maybe he's got problems, but now everyone's like pointing it at it, everyone's like making it worse.
Yeah. Everybody's going, hey, you need to get help, you need to get help, you need to get help. But the addict doesn't know how to get help. The addict's in no condition to get help. You understand? The addict's not in the right mental state of mind to do it themselves.
So the way forward is to actually create systems, platforms to help educate and empower families.
Families, close friends, relatives, loved ones.
And that's actually, it's very, very interesting. It's also like looking at it and saying, well, this is how to deal with it. First of all, it's a shock, but there is a road to recovery.
Yes.
That's the thing. Not doom and gloom.
Not doom and gloom, yeah.
Oh, awesome, man. One of the things that I admire the most as well is your spiritual journey as well. And an absolute warrior of God. And it is absolutely amazing to see the work that he's done in your life. You are a beacon of hope for me that, no matter what your past is like, the spirituality aspect is one thing that always defines a person, that God's grace never left you. No. It never will. And how did that all come about? For you to give your life, do you remember that day?
It was. I think it was the second day in rehab.
Were you still high?
I was still high. Yeah. No, it was the second or third day in rehab, and we were in the church hall. Obviously, I was coming down.
So wait, you remember the day that sort of your spiritual journey started, when you were still on your second day in rehab?
Second or third day in rehab, yeah. And there was a song that came on, and it was, you've come to a point in your life now where everything's gone, and you're full, but you're not satisfied, and that was the song, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks, because the funny thing was that during my drug usage, I was like almost atheist. I just didn't want to believe in a higher power. I didn't want to believe in the Lord. There was too much bad things happening in the world for me to believe that there was a God in control of all of it. You know what I mean? And although I was a Christian when I was in youth, there was a long period of my life where I just turned away from the Lord for about 10 years. And when I went to rehab, and it was a spiritual-based rehab, when I went there, I completely just started seeing the Lord's work in my life, and how he was revealing every thought that I had the night before, every question that I had, for the Lord while I was in rehab. The very next morning during the biblical reading, it would almost be highlighted of that scripture that would be my thought from the day before.
And you were like, no ways.
And I was like, this is impossible, and eventually I started like writing notes. I'm like, I'm going to prove this is not my brain going a bit crazy, cray, So I'd like write a note and like, wait for this thing to, and then I'd show him, see, look here. This is my question yesterday. Yeah, you answered it today. And they were like, yeah, that's how the Lord works, And even like during Bible reading in the morning, like we were under this boma, and next time I was wondering this questions in my head, and this beam of light just came through the boma, through a crack in the roof, and it landed on like a little part of my Bible, and I read it, and it was exactly what I
Always.
like the answer I was kind of looking for, you know. And those are the kind of things that like just strengthen my belief system again, you know. Seeing that the Lord is actually there for us, and that there's hope, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and how much of it was finding an environment of peace?
Oh, jeez, no, that was a major part of it. I mean, I had all the time before that to find the Lord, and you know, it was only when I was in that environment that things started to change for me. So I know it's a massive part.
Because there was that purpose aspect that you were trying to figure out, and I can only imagine with the drugs, and that also you were trying to figure out, where do I belong, what am my purpose, and let alone that you meet the Lord in rehab.
Yeah.
And if you look back at it now, you see, if you didn't go through what you went and you didn't go to rehab, the Lord maybe wouldn't have revealed himself to you.
No, I'm sure the Lord would have revealed himself to me. I have no doubt about it. But it was just, he chose the right place at the right time.
And what was that feeling like when you had that sense of peace? I mean, that must have been better than any high that you've ever had before.
Yeah, it was that reason that I don't need to take drugs anymore. It was that peace that I didn't. It was that sudden peace in my life that I just understood.
That's amazing, man. So you're like.
There was more to life than just me.
And did that open up your lens on life with everything?
Yeah.
Your family, your daughter, and then also self introspection.
Yeah. So actually, just coming back to the question you asked earlier, I didn't fully answer it. You know, where you said, you know, what made me successful with my rehab, and opposed to other people who don't get through it. And it was the fact that I had a little girl, I had Rebecca, and she needed a dad, and I had a wife that needed me as well, and I needed to be there for them, and I needed to come right. You know? So I had a purpose when I was in rehab. You know, I had something to fight for, to come out to you know, family to be there for. With a lot of addicts, they normally single, not normally. Sorry, I'm generalizing, but you know, a lot of the addicts over there, youngsters, you know, not married yet, don't have kids yet, they haven't really found much direction in life, you know. So for them, it's just a joyride at the moment. There's no consequences to the actions yet.
Yeah, there's no like responsibility. I'm not accountable to a wife or kids.
Yeah. So you just say so, and I'm gonna get to a point now. So you go, well, it's my life. Who cares if I die? Who cares if I'm not contributing, whatever, you know? I'm not doing anything wrong to anybody else. Just why can't everybody just leave me alone? You know, who are you to say that I can't take drugs? So this is not a brag, but this is to explain that point that my brother used to say to me, you know, Tubs, what do you contribute to society? What, you're just a waste, you know, like, you're doing nothing. You got so much potential in your life and you're doing nothing. And I go, well, just leave me. It's me. It's my life. I can do nothing if I want to do nothing. Who are you to say that I must do anything? You know, if you want to do things, you go do it. And now, if I look at what I've done in the last 4.5 years, with my business, with supporting NPOs, with my feeding schemes, with giving back to the community, I think it's hundreds of thousands of miles that have been fed in the last 4.5 years. Organizations that were closing down that have not closed down, you know, the houses, places of safety which were going to close down, which didn't close down, all these abandoned and abused kids, all of that, all laid on the back of an addict that was not contributing anything to society because he was selfish in his abuse and his drug addiction and everything, who felt that it was his life and he didn't owe anything to anybody. But when you become a contributing member of society, you actually realize how important a life is and what a difference that life can actually make in the world. It's not fair to do nothing.
Yeah, damn, I'm getting goosebumps galore here. And it's also to realize that there's a good part of me. I mean, going from someone that had that sense of entitlement, that it's only about me, to being compassionate and giving back. I mean, it's almost like on the flip side.
Yeah, it's a complete flip side, yeah.
But it's always been there.
And it's not to say that I was never a giving person or I didn't have compassion, but it was on such a small scale in comparison. It was, you think because you give a car guard, $5, or if you give this person a sandwich, you're contributing. And yes, you are, but because you're in addiction, you're not living your life to your full potential, what you can do, what a difference one person can make, and the ripple effect thereof. You don't even see the ripple. I'm just talking about what I've done, not because of what I've done, through the ripple effects that have gone on through that as well. So, and to think that if I had to rewind and go back into addiction, and to think of everything that would not have taken place, I mean, that's selfish.
But it's fascinating to have that sense of belief that the life that you've had, what you've gone through, you can still make such a big impact in the world. And it would be the same for anyone that comes out of rehab. There is that element of hope that you can be a contributing member to society, but they have to believe that, hey?
Also, like, what's unbelievable is now I got an email the other day, or a phone call actually, from Daily Dispatch, and they want me to be a judge in the new local heroes for this year. Obviously I'm one of the winners from last year, and that was like, wow, an addict, where my life was destined for complete utter destruction, to now being a local hero, to now being chosen to choose a local hero, to just think that how can they choose an addict like me, where I was literally living on the street, to now sit on a board and choose another local hero to represent, what they're doing.
And do you not think at the same time it's liberating for you, knowing that where you are now is also because of a sense of commitment, an element of faith, sacrifice to making it work, but you could also be a role model to a lot of the people that are going through the tough times.
Yes.
Do you find that there's that element of leadership and responsibility?
100%.
Is that something that almost drives you every single day?
Absolutely. Like I was saying, I think I was speaking to your brother actually, and I was saying to him that, how important it is when I wake up in the morning and I realize that the reason I have to get out of bed is because I've got 15 staff members that all have a family of 5. If you times that and you look at that, if you look at all the feeding schemes that I have to do, all the network effect of my life, getting up in the morning and going to work, opposed to waking up in the morning and reaching for my bong and just smoking and laying in bed and watching movies the whole day, and doing absolutely nothing. To think that, like, imagine I just decided I'm not going to get up and go to work anymore. How many people's lives would be affected? Yeah,
but you also took that choice to put those responsibilities in place.
100%, yeah.
So would that not be a good starting point for anyone that is trying to find purpose in their life? Try and find some elements of responsibility and build upon it.
I think it will start happening naturally. I think, once you're sober, you will see that you're a lot more functional than you were before, and you're not going to sit and go, "Oh, I'm going to do nothing today." You know what I mean? I'm just going to like sit here.
Yeah. I'm not high. I'm just
not high. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah.
So because you're not actively doing something like narcotics or whatever the case is, you're drinking, you're going to find something else to do.
Yeah.
Naturally.
100%. And the last thing I just want to just touch on is, if you had to give advice to the Tubs that is going through that dark patch in his life and maybe doesn't realize it, if you had a chance just to, as you passed him by, what would you actually say to him?
That people actually love you, that people actually care about you, and they're just trying to help, and give them a chance. Let them help you. Stop being so strong-willed, and just accept when you need help.
And ask for help.
ask for help and accept help when help comes along, and don't always think that there's an ulterior motive behind the help from your loved ones, because that's what we do as addicts. We get into this stage of paranoia where we think that there's an ulterior motive, that they just want to send me away.
Where's the catch?
Where's the catch? Like they're trying to get rid of me for some reason. It's all this paranoia kind of mindset.
And it's fueled by drugs as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. Tubbs, this is why I like having these conversations. These are the conversations I believe need to happen. We need to normalize these conversations. It is so, again, it's so inspiring to hear your journey, to see how your redemptions happened. Your faith is admirable. But also the fact is, you're such a nice, well-hearted person, man. You're such a nice person to be around. And it's only testament to that there can be good in life. And it was so interesting that you mentioned that we've got to change the narrative, we've got to change the system, we've got to change the way that we communicate things through, because I agree 100% with you that we need to educate the families. We need to normalize the conversations that say, guys, this problem does exist. It's not going to magically go away. We got to put in these systems at home within our society to support it and not stigmatize it. And I believe that there is good. You living proof that that good can happen, no matter how dark and long that past of suffering and drug addiction is. There's always hope, there's always light, and there's always a better chance that you're here in this world for a purpose. So thanks again, buddy. It is so amazing having these conversations. I feel so refreshed, and I'll just, I know that we're going to make magic happen. And so that's deep thought. That's the deep thought for the day. It's generally 4 o'clock, so I don't know if I'll be able to sleep later. But anyway, guys, that has been another great conversation with the one, the only Tubs. If you want to check him out on Facebook, Potter Curry, amazing food. Do yourself a favor, go and have their chicken roti, the buttered chicken roti. It's an absolute treat. Again, Tubs, thank you so much. As we always end off here saying, we're coming in live from the Keith and Garcia podcast studio in the lovely East London. Everyone out there, stay blessed, stay motivated, and know that God loves you. We'll check you soon.